The member for Mallee is the National Party's Anne Webster on the road in Mallee. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you, Ricky?
Very good, thanks. Where are you heading today in the electorate?
I'm driving through sunny Wimmera, heading from Horsham to Albocutcha Bridge this morning, just past Rainbow, of course, and looking at the $2 million bridge that we funded, and it's almost complete, which is very, very exciting. And then we're on to Hopetoun and meeting up, talking about the primary. So State School there has been purchased for a community hub accommodation. Lots of creative ideas going on, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they're up to.
Is that similar to what's happened at the Oasis Rainbow? Wasn't there a similar thing happen there?
Well, I'm not sure about the Rainbow one, but I'm certainly interested to see what they're hoping to achieve here in Hopetoun.
No worries. Now, first of all, before we talk about this trade deal with India that's been penned, last time we talked, when it came to the agricultural visa, Australia looked like the girl on the side of the dance that no one wanted to dance with, but Vietnam's grabbed her hand and said, let's have a dance.
Yeah, absolutely. Great analysis there. It's very exciting, and I think Vietnam signing up paves the way, for the next dancing partner, shall we say. And of course, the India Free Trade Agreement that has been signed off by Australia and India is very exciting, and they are being invited into the Ag Visa as a possible dance partner as well.
Excellent. Well, let's keep dancing on. You've just dropped the India mention there. This free trade agreement, what's it got in it for the farmers and other residents of Mallee?
Look, there's a tremendous amount in it. I think at the moment, India is sitting about number 7 on our trading partners, and we're hoping to move it up to number 3. Its GDP is expected to really grow in the next few years. And the two-way trade value at this stage with India for Australia is $24 billion. And it has the 6th largest goods and services export market valued at about $16.9 billion. So it's a very serious player for us, and the changes that we're expecting for growers in Mallee include things like wine, which will be improved. Sheep meat tariff of 30% will be eliminated on entry into force when both countries go through all paperwork, and it's passed in Parliament, of course, providing a boost for Australian export, who already command nearly 20% of India's market. So that's pretty exciting. Wool, of course, we have current 2.5% tariff, which will be eliminated when it's passed in Parliament, and supporting Australia's second largest market for wool. Wine, as I said, we have reductions in tariff subsequently to 50% over 10 years based on the Indian Wholesale Price Index. And bottled wine, likewise, reduced from 150% tariff to 75% when it goes through Parliament, and then subsequently to 25% over 10 years. Other tariffs up to 30% on avocados, onions, broad kidney and azuki beans, cherries, shell pistachios, macadamias, of course we don't grow those in Mallee, cashews, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, currants, and then they will be eliminated over 7 years. Tariffs on almonds, obviously relevant for Mallee, lentils, again relevant, oranges, same, mandarins, pears, apricots, strawberries will be reduced, improving opportunities for Australia's hort industry to supply India's growing food demand. So then we go into minerals, and into our resource sector, coal, alumina, metallic ores, including manganese, copper, nickel, and critical minerals, including titanium and zirconium. There's great possibility for Mallee in all of this. So it's pretty exciting, actually.
Yeah, and I guess one thing you mentioned, some of those tariff reductions will have to pass the Parliament. We'll have to check in with the opposition where they stand on it, because naturally, I don't imagine there's going to be any more Parliament until there's a federal election.
No, well, I think you're right on that. I think that's a pretty good call. And so you're right. This needs to be bipartisan. This is a huge win for Australia, and it makes a very big difference to our ag and mining sectors as well in one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So watch this space.
Well, naturally, people would wish more to happen with these types of deregulations or free trade deals. The Grain Producers Australia put out a statement. They were disappointed that chickpeas and wheat, they say, missed out in what they say was an interim deal. So I guess there's a bit more work to be done to maybe get that relief for those sectors as well.
Yeah, look, I've discussed this with David Littleproud. He says that the expectation is that they will come in as time goes by. So, don't be too disappointed too soon. I think this is a huge step in the right direction, and we can only expect it to grow as it works for both countries. Obviously, any form of free trade deal has to work both ways. And the other point about this trade deal is that it will increase our workforce. They have been invited, as I said, into the ag visa arrangement, but also working holidaymakers in the STEM and IT workforces. For Indian students with a bachelor's degree with first-class honours, they will be extended from 2 to 3 years post-study, and it's just going to impact not only our workforce but obviously the primary industry as well.
Now, talking about the federal budget, you've had a fair bit to say, I think, on your social media. I've noticed some commentary about the huge $1 billion spending that's happening in regional Australia through this budget.
Absolutely. Look, I think one of the important things for mums and dads and families living across Mallee is the cost of living relief. And, we talked last time, Ricky, about the fuel drop in excise by 50% to 22%. It is for a 6-month period. So people who are worried about our debt, $1 trillion debt, I would remind them that our commodity exports in this financial year alone have topped $495 billion. Australia is positioned incredibly well to manage this debt going forward. And I think, the global circumstances in which we find ourselves in many respects are unnerving and destabilising. I understand that, but there is also opportunity. And as Australia has managed COVID in terms of economic output, in terms of debt rates, mortality rates and vaccination rates, Australia is sitting very, very well. So we can afford the fuel excise cuts. Our roads, the Treasurer promises me, will not be impacted in terms of the expenditure on roads to continue to improve them.
I think you had a fairly significant announcement in the budget about the Sunraysia Highway, is that right?
That's right, $45 million for the Sunraysia Highway. I've just stood on the Western Highway this morning, $360 million that we committed to that highway. Roads, everybody understands the incredible importance of our roads. Most people don't understand who pays for what. All levels of government have a responsibility to ensure that local roads, state roads and federal highways are maintained. And, of course, Mallee has... I actually don't know. I don't really want to know how many kilometres that we travel in Mallee, but 83,500 square kilometres gives us a lot of scope for road improvements. And, if I'm still here, I will still continue advocating for more funding. $420 cost of living tax offset to lower middle income earners, of course, is a win for cost of living expenditure and managing our budgets, and 251 off payments to pensioners, veterans, concession card holders and self-retirees as well. In terms of other budget expenditure, look, I'm really pleased that we now have another $99 million promised for 80 new rural medical Commonwealth supported places for 8 medical schools. As I've spoken to before, Ricky, your listeners would be familiar with my rant about the regional healthcare training that must go on in our regional centres, working with La Trobe and Monash to ensure that happens, seeking funding for a wet lab so that an undergrad biomed, the very first step that a secondary school student makes to head towards medicine is an undergrad science course. Biomed is one of the classics, and then to go into postgrad. And we want that to happen in Mildura, in the regions, so that doctors can train local doctors. Local students can train to be local doctors and remain in local settings. So that's a very exciting announcement.
Now,
Of course,
sorry.
go on.
I just wanted
Go
to
on.
ask you about this infographic put out by Mallee MP, the independent from Mildura. The headline she put on it was "Federal Libs failing us and Victorian Nats just let it happen." It's the graphic claiming that new infrastructure spending by the federal government by state, showing Victoria in between SA and Tasmania at sort of 250 million, New South Wales supposedly at 1.5 billion by contrast. What do you have to say about in response to that?
Well, I know I have literally the data that shows that we have expended $2 billion in Mallee in the last 3 years. $2 billion. That is for roads and infrastructure. And under the national programs such as the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program, the Building Better Regions Fund, and, roads are strategic important, we have expended in regional centres because we are national party here. So being in government gives you the ability to fight and successfully fight for projects in your region. And if you're an independent, I'm sorry, you don't actually have that power. You can lobby in the hallways, and if the government thinks it's a good idea, the government at the time, they might do it, they might not. But I can absolutely assure people that the Nationals in power with the coalition is the best way to successfully get the grants that we need. And I am, for my first 3 years, I'm pretty stoked with what we have achieved. Yes, we could have more. I have, I think I've said this to you, I have 59 projects on my wish list for Mallee. That's not surprising when you have 12 shires and you have a tremendous amount of innovation and creativity and forward-thinking, strategic vision among all of the shires and the groups who are here. It's not surprising that I would have 59 projects that I am very excited about and backing every one of them.
Those figures, the figures you gave us, though, are about, I guess, what's been spent, which are good achievements, but she's talking about new infrastructure spending over the next 5 years. But you're saying that's the commitments on that front. What are we seeing in the budget at this stage in Victoria?
Well, I think it shows. Look, I'm quite public about the fact that I'm disappointed Mallee didn't get X amount of millions for the budget. However, the show isn't over yet. Let's keep watching this space. I do expect to have announcements in the next few weeks. However, I think what we need to understand is that we are in, as I said earlier, unstable times on a global front. It is imperative that we have secure borders. It's imperative that our defence force is ramped up. The only way that we can pay for an enlarged defence force, the only way that we can pay for NDIS, for aged care, for Medicare, for health more broadly, and education is by having a very strong economy. And that means that you invest where there is going to be a great, surplus that occurs for that investment.
Yeah, I noticed.
And that is precisely what the coalition has done. They have looked to Northern Australia, so the Northern Territory, Queensland and Northern New South Wales in terms of resource there, and seen where the funding can come from. And, as I said earlier, the fact that commodities have brought the export market to a point of $495 billion in this financial year so far is extraordinary. In agriculture, we're hoping to get to 100 billion. We're planning on getting to 100 billion by 2030. I hope we exceed that. But, that is not the same as the resource sector. So it's incredibly important that Australia, the federal government, thinks strategically and thinks as a nation, where do these funds, where should they get spent in Australia's best interest? If Australia prospers, Mallee prospers.
Well, when you mentioned Northern Australia there, and I've got a question mark over her graph here, Mallee Cuppers, because it says it's 500 million for Queensland, but 5.1 billion was announced for this Hell's Gate Dam northwest of Townsville. New South Wales, WA and Queensland, as you mentioned, Northern Australia getting a great deal of the funding here. But why are we not seeing that kind of investment in the Murray-Darling Basin on water security, creating dams so we could have more water for farmers in the Mallee?
The New South Wales and Victorian governments have made it, particularly in Victoria, have said they will not build a dam. Any dams, any water infrastructure has to have state government bipartisan agreement. Now, when a state government says, we will not build a dam, why is the federal government going to say, oh, well, we'll give you, 4 point whatever billion dollars to build a dam that they have no intention of building? So the federal government can only do what the state governments will effectively allow. And if they will not allow more water storage, that's where the conversation stops. So what we need is Ali Cupper to put some pressure on the state government, being the independent, and to see some of these opportunities arise in Mallee or in her seat, Mildura, for the people of Mallee.
I didn't know the Queensland Labor government was okay with dams either, or is that a different scenario up there?
That has been a huge fight. It has been a huge fight, but they've still got to give their approval. And they, as far as I'm aware, I haven't been watching the Queensland Premier's antics recently, but as far as I'm aware, she is yet to give her stamp of approval on the dam.
Well, you've highlighted there's some future Watch This Space announcements for Mallee. We look forward to those. And Webster, keep safe on the roads, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks so much, Ricky. Good on you.